Now, at this point, we have a pretty good structure for a song. We have our arrangement, we have our keyboard part, we have our drum part, and we have a bass part. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the mixer, and we're going to start adding in EZMix 2. So I'm going to go to the Effects tab within my browser in Studio One, and I'm going to grab EZMix, and we're going to start using that to supplement the tracks and add effects like EQ, compression, and start building the sound of our song. Now, a lot of times when I'm mixing, I actually will start with the master bus, and I have a series of processors from EZMix or other plugins that I will use. In this case, I wanted to build everything truly from the ground up. So we create the song first, then we start adding effects to individual channels. We'll get the vocals in here, we'll make some additional changes, and then finally we will master everything in the master fader, the master channel. So let's go ahead and start adding effects to these individual channels that we have here. So go ahead and move the bass over here. We'll put this all in the same order that we have with our tracks. And let's actually start with the drums. I'm going to bring EZMix onto my drum track. And the reason I'm doing this is the drums have such a big impact on the sound of the song and the sound of the track that I like to start there with the EZMix to start creating the sound of my drums and let that dictate what I do with the other tracks. I have quite a few EZMix 2 libraries installed, but we'll keep this simple. I'm just going to click on this EZMix 1 library, and we'll click on drums, and we have this drum bus, this first drum bus that we're going to use. So we'll start with that. If you're not familiar with EZMix 2, it's just a great way to add effects, compression, EQ, anything really that you want to your tracks. You have a couple different knobs. There's a lot of processing going on in the background with this plugin. So basically, the developers of these presets have done a lot of the work for you. So all you have to do is make the adjustments. You can use your ear, and they really sound great even just by loading a specific preset. And of course, you can dial it in by turning these two knobs. Now, it will tell you in the description what each knob does for each preset. So here we have an EQ shape. And if I hover the mouse over, you'll get a little bit more information sometimes here. So it just says EQ. Here we have parallel tape volume. And so we have tape simulator and some EQ. So let's take a listen to what this does to the drum track. So it is making a nice adjustment there. Some EQ things happening. We get a little bit of that tape saturation sound. It does raise the volume a bit, so the volume is a bit louder, but that's okay. We can always adjust that later. Let's take a listen to it with the full mix. So even as is, it sounds great. I'm actually going to solo the drums again, and I'll just turn some of the knobs so you can hear what they do, and then I'll dial in a setting that we can use. All right, we'll go with those settings. And notice as I was turning the knobs, what I like to do actually is make extreme adjustments all the way to the right so you can hear what that does, and then make gradual adjustments after the fact so you can kind of find where you want that setting to sit. Now, one thing to be careful of, some of these settings do drastically change the volume, like this parallel tape volume. So as I increase the right dial, the volume is going to increase. So I offset that by changing this output setting. So if you want a bit of that tape distortion, yet you don't want the output volume to be too loud, then you can lower the output volume here as well. Once again, control click any of these dials to go back to the default setting. So that's what we're going to do for our drums. Let's add some effects to our bass. Right, for the bass guitar, I'm just going to go to the core expansion library. We'll click on bass, and I'm just going to use this very first one, bass channel. So we'll see what that does to the bass track. It's just some EQ and some compression. So the compression dial on the right will adjust the compressor threshold and makeup gain. So I turned a few of the dials so you could hear what this preset sounds like. And I actually like the compression turned all the way up. I think it just kind of tames and evens out those bass notes. Although I did bring the output down just a little bit. And I actually left the EQ right where it was in the preset. So I'm going to add another EZMix plugin to the bass. The nice thing about this is you can just keep on stacking EZMix plugins. And one thing I like to do is roll off a little bit of the low end. So we'll go ahead and click on EZMix 1, and we have this 40 hertz control. So 40 hertz is a very low frequency, and it's where a lot of the sub frequencies sit. So for bass guitar, by rolling a little bit of this off, I am just making sure that the bass doesn't get out of hand. A lot of times when you're mixing, and everybody's different, but when I'm mixing, I want to make sure that when my mix translates from my studio to people's stereos or stereos in the car or their earphones or whatever they're using, that the bass isn't too much. A lot of times you get things mixed the way you want in your studio, and when you play it on another system, the bass is a bit out of control. So I always try to be careful to make sure the bass sits nicely. That's why I added some compression in this previous setting. So this previous EZMix setting added a little bit more compression. And again, I'm going to just use a little bit of this roll off just so we don't have so much of those low sub frequencies that can get in the way. So all I'm going to do is dial this back a little bit. So it's at 40%. It will be a subtle difference, but I think it just cleans up the mix a bit and makes sure the bass doesn't get in the way. So again, very subtle, but I like to just have that little bit of extra control to roll off some of those sub frequencies. So that's all we're going to do on the bass guitar for now. And actually right now for easy keys, we're going to leave it alone. We're not going to add any additional processing on the main keyboard here. What I'd actually like to do instead is add processing on secondary keyboard parts. And we're actually going to supplement the keyboard parts just by adding additional instances of easy keys. So let's take a listen to just the keys right now. We're using this preset. If we wanted to make adjustments, we could actually do it within the plugin, which is great. And there's already some processing going on. I really like this chorus preset within this electric MK1. And again, we can make adjustments here within the plugin. But for now, I'm going to go with just all of the default settings here. We might adjust that a bit later. And we're not going to put an EZMix plugin on Easy Keys at this time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.